Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Friday the 17th, tomorrow, Celtic play Middlesbrough. Yes, Celtic play Middlesbrough. People are wanting out the club and it's a bit thingy this morning again. Tell me if that audio is a bit better this morning. As they say. Yeah, there's a couple of things to talk about this morning. A couple of players that there's a couple of players that want away. There's a couple of players that have been speaking about Celtic. Speaking about Celtic and Alila Just. He's wanted by Swansea. Celtic, if they wanted Alila Just, surely they could have moved for him a bit quicker. The lack of speed from anything to do with transfers at Celtic seems to be one of the biggest pains for Celtic fans this summer. Good morning, everyone in the chat. I'm going to talk about Greg Taylor. He did an interview with Charlie McGregor yesterday. The video went out. It was obviously filmed a few days ago. Due to the editing and everything, the time it would take that with. But it's good to see Charlie McGregor's pitch to par interview. Basically, he asked, was there a deal on the table? And strangely enough, Greg Taylor, there's one of the best comments yet. Remember, transfers used to be fun. Now it's just stress. Yes, this is very true. But Greg Taylor never had an offer on the table from Celtic when he left. There was no offer. There was no talk of wages. And that just goes to show there's a lot of fans out there that said that, we should have offered Greg Taylor what he wanted. There was no offer on the table. That came from Greg Taylor himself. Greg Taylor did speak about the amazing 6-7 years that he had at Celtic. He said he had some amazing memories. He says he loved every minute of it. But he just felt that after being an important member of the squad, having been one of the senior players of the squad, where would that fit in with Kieran Tierney coming back? He knew that Kieran was coming back. Listen, he said he could have stayed at the club, picked up a wage. But what was interesting is he also said that if I never left Celtic then, I would never have left Celtic. I would have finished out my career at Celtic. I think that every player needs to play abroad at least once in their career. It's the making of you as a person. It opens your eyes to so much more, a different lifestyle, a different type of football. Whilst we all love players that stay at Celtic and want to be at Celtic, we're all very thingy of our club. We all want the best players to stay at the club forever. But looking at it from a footballer's perspective, I think it's been great for Greg Taylor to go abroad and maybe I wouldn't have went to the country he went to, but it's all about who wants you, I suppose. Greg Taylor says he's got 2 years left in Greece and he wants to make it a success, but he would never rule out a return from Celtic. He was asked the big question, Postecoglou, Toulouse are in for just 2. Yeah, Celtic aren't getting just, not a chance. We've another week almost over and no positive transfer news. Yeah, and that's what I'm just going to talk about Greg Taylor this morning, because there's no point in talking about Celtic transfers. I said last week or so, I said, look, I'm not going to mention every single player that we're linked with because it's not going to happen. On the system that I use for the thumbnails, I've still got all the pictures for every player that we were linked with last season. There's no point, is there? Anyway, getting back to Greg Taylor. He says he was asked the question, who was the better manager? Brendan Rodgers or Ange Postecoglou? Oh, that was probably the biggest debating point of the interview, was it? And he refused to choose between the two. He didn't say that one was better than the other. He said Brendan was more personal, built relationships. He says that Brendan was tactically brilliant. That's a big talking point because everyone thinks that Brendan Rodgers' football was side-to-side passing pish, as they say. Ange Postecoglou was more get the ball forward, attacking, get a goal. But he said that Ange Postecoglou was more distant. This is all things that we knew. He was less personal, but he was also brilliantly tactical. was Ange Postecoglou. I don't think that there's nothing new there. I think that there's a lot of that came out about Ange Postecoglou, about the fact that he didn't take training, about the fact that Ange Postecoglou let John Kennedy take all the training, and he just came in and did what like Martin O'Neill did, and just sit at the sidelines and watch the players and go, "Yep, you're shite, you're shite, you're shite, you're getting a game, you're getting a game, you're brilliant." And that's what good managers do, isn't it? They manage. In bygone times, they took the training. But it's a modern game, isn't it? He says both are elite managers, said Greg Taylor. It's interesting because obviously supporters consistently say that Ange was a better manager than Brendan. Brendan's won more than Ange at Celtic because he was here longer. And the perception of football and tactics, fans kind of lean towards Ange Postecoglou because of the players he had, the fast flow and attacking football. They just get up the park and try and score as many goals. It's where, like I said, a lot of people think that Brendan's football was just side to side stuff. Anyway, the inverted fullback role. He says he believes that it suited his game perfectly now that he's grown up. He'd grown up playing in midfield. Something that we forget about Greg Taylor. He says many fans criticised him early on, but realised how effective he had become. He even says that Brendan's second spell, the role, he developed more in that role, and people forget how well that Celtic played in that period. Greg admits that some supporters relate to, says that last season, he says for the most of the season, he thought that Celtic could win, and then even he started to worry about last season. Getting towards 2 months before the end of the season, he says he started to worry about it. He's like, I don't think Celtic's going to win the title this year. But winning the last 7 games, he says, that's what champions do. That's what Celtic are. There's no excuses, no complaints. Celtic went out and won the last 7 games. Hearts didn't win the last 7 games. Rangers didn't win the last 7 games. And they were the only 2 that had a chance of stopping Celtic. So as far as Greg Taylor's concerned, Celtic deserved to be champions. And I think we deserve to be champions too. Hey, listen, back in December last year, I thought there was no way that Celtic were going to win the league because they were that far off it. But Martin O'Neill and the players knew. I can remember doing the thumbnail. On the channel. Must win 7 games. And we did it. And the rest, they say, is history. The biggest myth about Celtic that Greg Taylor was asked. Now, this was a fascinating one. He says, you need a different mentality to play for Celtic. That's something that the fans always say. You need a different mentality. Greg disagrees completely. He said it comes down to confidence, playing in a system that suits you, managers trusting you, and playing regularly. That's one of the things that Greg Taylor said. Brendan Rodgers, boring football. It's one of the comments. He was a snake, but Brendan Rodgers did perform well in the Champions League, but still a snake. They got away with bringing in Nancy, get rid of the CEO and temporary chairman. And I'm not even going to talk about that this morning, Kev, because I want to go into the weekend happy. No negativity on the channel this morning, please. I'm not even going to read the comments. There's so much negativity. I'll just put my hand over the comments section so I don't see it. He said, Greg Taylor, he said, look, success comes down to confidence. Playing in a system that suits you as a player. Managers trusting you, which is quite a thing because Martin O'Neill didn't trust a lot of players. Michelangelo Balak-Wisher didn't trust him at all last season, but he's had him playing in midfield pre-season. Maybe that's just to get him in the window and get him sold. But his example, Greg Taylor, he said, when you look at players that come in and had no confidence, Nico Kuhn, first season, no confidence at all. Second season, outstanding player for half a season. And then he was shite when Jota came back. And it's a shame because I really wanted Nico Kuhn and Jota to get off to a flyer and have the 2 of them on the wing absolutely terrorising teams. It's as if we were about to get back to that Ange Postecoglou type football. But Jota ended up getting injured and Nico Kuhn went downhill. Do you know, it's the same fans, Greg Taylor says, it's the same stadium, It's a different type of confidence in the player. That's an interesting part because fans often say that players can't handle the pressure of playing at Celtic. Greg thinks it's much more about the confidence of the player and the player's role and the clarity of the role from the backroom staff. That's what really makes a difference at Celtic. Speaking about Callum McGregor, he says, who was the biggest player that you played with? Charlie Mulgrew asked him, who was the biggest player you played with in your time at Celtic? And he had no qualms about it. And this will upset Celtic fans because a lot of Celtic fans do not think that this player is important. They do not think that this player has the authority. They do not think that this player is the best version that he can be. But Greg Taylor says the best player that he's ever played with was Callum McGregor. Not just his ability. He said it was his leadership, his standards, his professionalism. He's setting the example every single day. Everyone follows Callum's lead at Celtic. What happens next year? What happens this year if Callum McGregor walks away? There is no one at Celtic that has been at Celtic for such a long time. There's no one coming through the system. There's not the gravy train of players coming through the system that know what it means to play for Celtic, that know what it means to win. We're coming to the end of that era. We're going to end up like any other club in around about 2 seasons' time, with journeymen, with people that don't get the club, people that don't have the club right inside them. And that, for me, is a worry. But it's good to hear that even after being away from Celtic for a year, that he still sees Callum McGregor as the captain and the most important player at Celtic. Never mind your Dice Maida, never mind your 20 goal scoring Benji Negron, never mind your Nico Kuhns, never mind your little Japanese striker that wanted to leave because he thought Celtic weren't at a great level. Players like Callum McGregor are important to Celtic. Players like Tony Ralston are important to Celtic. Players like Dane Murray, although he might not be at the level that we want. Players like Colby Donovan. All these young Scottish lads coming through the system. You may not think that they are good enough, but they bleed for the club like we do. And we're on the verge of becoming a mediocre club with players that don't get us. And that worries me deeply. Because I've grown up. We've all grown up having players that have been at Celtic since they were a kid, since they were a young age, or since, that have been at Celtic 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons. That's not going to happen anymore. Soon we're going to have a standard of Scottish players that just Luke McCowan-esque. No disrespect to Luke McCowan, none intended. But when you haven't came through the club and you don't know what it's like to win, we've wasted 4 years. It was great having Ange Postecoglou. It was great having Brendan Rodgers. It was great winning trebles. But what has it really cost Celtic? It's cost us our soul. It's cost us this wanting to win everything in the Scottish League. This must-win attitude that came in when Brendan Rodgers came in the first time. This need to make sure that we finish above Rangers, and that is the level. We've screwed over our academy, we've screwed over the young team, we've screwed over our reputation within transfer land and agents is a shambles. For what? Just to sit at the end of the season and go, we won the league again. See, when we don't win the league, and when you wake up and you have a summer, I think Celtic fans have forgotten what it's like going through a summer when you don't win the league. And you don't have players that you can look at. If you think that this summer's bad, and looking at the players and looking at the squad and thinking, we are shit, Just wait to the first season that we don't win the league. A whole friggin' summer of negativity. If you think that this summer's bad with the transfer policy at Celtic, you just wait until. Yeah, Brian, you just hit it on the head, man. When did Celtic become a laughing stock? This board just want to complete in the SPFL. Yes, this is very true. It has cost us more than 10 years of bleeding in the youth. It has. And it's something that's not getting addressed. 4 or 5 years of success. The worst thing that happened to Celtic, or should have been the best thing, that should have happened to Celtic was losing the 10. It should have been a reset, a rethink. And let's get this youth policy fucking bang on. Let's get everything, going forward. But we didn't. We wanted to get back to winning. We wanted to get back to dominating. This is why I've called for a manager to come in on a long-term plan. A manager that's going to come in and look at the whole football department. But the sad reality is at Celtic, when you're the football manager of the club, you're not in charge of the whole football department anymore. European football should always be the aim. That comes with success of the league, says Ronnie. Oh, Ronnie, that would just be it's yeah, that would be amazing. But I can just go back a couple of days and watch Martin O'Neill and the realisation that the young players that were coming through that sporting team are heads and shoulders, not in physicality and in football terms. There's something very wrong at Celtic, and I don't know how to fix it. Don't ask me how to fix it because I don't know how we can. If I know how we can fix it, we can get rid of Nicholson, we can get rid of Mackay, we can get rid of Dermot Desmond. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon. We can start protesting when it goes bad in October. It'll take until October again, and then you'll get the Celtic Fans Collective and everyone else saying, right, it's time to start protesting. The board have got away with it again. The board have got a free summer. The board got a free end to the season last year. Because let's have unity. Let's win the league. Let's give the fucking big love hearts. Let's back Martin O'Neill. Whoa, fucking wee. Anyway, the Celtic boards are just a shambles. Dyson Maeda, he got a lot of praise from Greg Taylor. He said that he loved playing with Dyson. He says that Dyson always runs behind. He said it suited Greg's passing style because he could get a good ball up and Dyson would just boom on it. It's a pity we don't have people like that at Celtic just now. And he says it will be interesting to see where Dyson ends up. The best thing that surprised him, the best atmosphere at Celtic Park wasn't any big European games. That wasn't a Champions League game. His favourite match, Greg Taylor, and this will go against again. A lot of people say that Greg Taylor was a Rangers man. He's a Rangers fan, but the best match and the best atmosphere at his time at Celtic was a 3-0 win over Rangers under Ange Postecoglou. He says that was the best atmosphere that he has ever experienced in his life. And it just goes to show you. He spoke about match day nerves. He was nervous before every game. He says even before derbies, he says that it was actually worse. He says the only time he wasn't nervous, he says that they were scarier when he wasn't nervous going into games. He believes that nerves are healthy for games and it means that you care. And you've got to say, after that interview, he did care about his time at Celtic, and he does remember it fondly. And he did admit, if I never moved now, I would never have moved from Celtic. I could have picked up the wage. I could have been a Scott Bain. Don't know, I could have just sat on the sidelines, getting the odd game, but I didn't want to do that. Spoke about his life in Greece, and he was honest again about it. He says it hasn't gone exactly to plan. He expected football to be easy, and he says it's been a lot harder. He says life has actually been easier. He says he speaks about missing people when you're living abroad, missing his family, missing his grandparents, raising children abroad. And he spoke about, and this is something that Celtic fans never get. And I've spoke about this before, about when a new player comes in. Greg Taylor spoke about the hotel life. You're staying in a hotel for the first few months where you're being at a new club. And that's not exactly fantastic. Celtic fans think that players should come in and hit the ground running, and they don't realise, and I've spoke about it many times, Ange Postecoglou spoke about it and says he wants to get players in at the Christmas time so they have that 6 month settler in period, and then they need to buy a house, they need to get a car, they need to do all this, the driver's licences and all this stuff that goes along with moving to a new country. That's what at the back of your mind. Greg Taylor spoke about that, and it just reiterates what I've said before about giving players time to settle in. He was asked about would he work in the media, and he actually said yeah. He says he'd quite enjoying it. He's comfortable talking, and I thought that he came across well in the interview. I could see him taking up a Scott Brown type role in the media afterwards. The question that you need to ask is, did Greg Taylor make the right decision to leave Celtic? I think yes. Would you welcome him back one day? No. I think that we need to move on. Is Callum McGregor the most important player at Celtic? I still say yes. No matter what a lot of people say, he's the captain. He makes us tick. And I think that we are in for a shock when players like Callum McGregor leave, Kieran Tierney comes to the end of their career, and it is the end of an era. The biggest takeaway from me for the interview was obviously the mentality, the Celtic winning mentality, and his love for Celtic and all the time that he was there. He speaks of it fondly. And for that, you've got to give Greg Taylor respect. At the end of the day, he's just a footballer doing his job. But he just happened to do his job at Celtic, and he wasn't too bad at it. Should he have stayed? I don't think so. I think Celtic needed to move on. But after that, it was a good interview. Nicholson pretty much admitted in Ireland that he is incompetent. Yes, he did that. New Martin O'Neill one-year deal was a con by our board just to please the fans. I don't think it was just to please the fans. It was an easy option. It was an easy option by the board. Was it the right option? After the debacle of the Wilfred Nancy situation, it's become apparent that when, and I've spoken about this before on the channel, every time that the hierarchy at Celtic are given a free rein to bring in the manager that they perceive as the man to take the club forward, the club falls down on its arse. From Tony Mowbray to Ronnie Deila to bringing back Neil Lennon, all these were internal decisions made by the board. Anytime that Dermot Desmond has stood up and went, I am taking control, as much as I dislike Dermot Desmond, and as much as the fans would love him out, Dermot Desmond's saved our arses. And any Celtic fan that says that Dermot Desmond hasn't saved our arses has to have a good word with himself, because he brought in Martin O'Neill the first time round against the board's wishes. The board were wanting to go down another route, but Dermot Desmond wanted Martin O'Neill. He brought in Brendan Rodgers after Ronnie Deila wasn't liked by the fans, after Ronnie Deila couldn't sell out Celtic Park, after Ronnie Deila couldn't make an impact in Europe. Dermot Desmond brought in Brendan Rodgers. When Brendan Rodgers left, the board brought back Neil Lennon. When Neil Lennon couldn't win us the 10, the most difficult season of all. It was always going to be difficult. I said 6 years before, said we get to 9, we will get to 9. I was confident that we would do the 9 in a row. And I said before it, when we get to the 10, they will throw everything at us to try and beat us. Unfortunately, it ended up being COVID season. He then, after the debacle of the board trying to bring in another manager that went on for around about 4 or 5 months, he got in Ange Postecoglou. He then brought back Brendan Rodgers. He steps back once again and allowed Martin O'Neill to stay at the club. Martin, Danny Boy's got it. I think that you're right. Martin should have retired after his miracle. We've got to move forward or fall further behind in European football. It was an easy choice by the board, and I hope, and I really do hope that we win the league under Martin and that it goes out on a high. I hope we win the treble, just to piss everyone off. Does it look like that we're going to do that just now? No. We've got a game tomorrow, and Celtic will... It will be a funny old stadium tomorrow. It will be a funny old stadium because not a lot of people are going to turn up for this game. It's 1 day, 6 hours and 3 minutes. 1 day, 6 hours and 3 minutes until Celtic have their first pre-season friendly at Celtic Park, a pre-season friendly that, once again, the dying days, those days are gone. The good old days of getting a pre-season friendly. Remember, you used to get a pre-season friendly and a European qualifier on your season book back in the good old days. A goodwill gesture from the club. Now the club, they just want your money, money, money. And it's, yeah. I don't think the Celtic or Rangers will ever do the 10. It's a poison chalice to keep peace in the city. Maloney shouldn't be coaching Celtic. His style of football is horrendous. Hibs' team is a perfect example. Whoa, interesting. I don't think it's just him though. Kid Keeper says, I hope that we win the quadruple. Yeah, let's bring off the get the Champions League and win the Champions League. Bring it home. Bring it home. Don't ever say that as a Celtic fan. We'll never bring in the Champions League home. Ever. Martin pulled off something of a miracle last season. As it stands now, yeah. I don't think anyone would get a repeat of last season. James says, Vaz, I'm saying it now, the way things are, we won't win anything, even though we still have over a month and a half of the transfer window to go. It's still a long way to go in the terms of the transfer window. We've got until the 3rd of September. We're only on the 17th of July. I will give the club some time to get its arse into gear, as they say. Middlesbrough are amongst the last clubs we should play. I know, Danny Boy. You think Celtic would learn? Can you remember the shambles when we played them down in Middlesbrough a few years ago? Or was that Sunderland we played? Sunderland or Middlesbrough? That was a laugh. Due to financial reasons, Martin O'Neill returned to football managing. Dermot Desmond knows this. I can't see Martin O'Neill ever calling Dermot Desmond or the board out. Due to financial reasons, Martin O'Neill returned to football management. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that Martin's desperate for cash in his old age? Come on, mate. He's 74-year-old. He won't have a mortgage. He's probably got a fantastic pension. I don't think that's a bit of... That's crazy if you think that Martin O'Neill's only back for the cash. I think he wants one last crack at big-time football. I don't think Martin O'Neill would be the type of person that's skint. Mad if you went tomorrow, understand someone is taking their kids for the first time. Yeah. Pre-season games are all about bedding in new players and getting up to speed. Once again, Celtic board have cocked it up. Makes my blood boil. It makes mine too, mate. It's this pre-season's a bigger shambles than last season's pre-season. Last season we beat Newcastle at this time of year. Won't be at the Borough or the AC game. How Martin keeps saying that Dermot will get his players. How have Rangers, Hearts gotten players? Yeah, I don't even want to look at other teams. How many games will we have played by the end of the window? I could be able to tell you that right now when we go into the fixtures. Before the end of the transfer window, Celtic. Oh, it's not that one. Let's click on the fixtures. Right, before the end of the window, when we get the season underway, let's get it up on the screen so you can all see it, because we will have Champions League games in at this point as well. Let's put this over here. So the first game of the season, Dundee. We'll have Kilmarnock. This weekend in here, in between, we will have the Premier Sports Cup. And then on the 18th of August, we will also have a Champions League qualifier on the 22nd of August. So that's 4 games so far. 5th game will be St Johnstone. The 6th game will be the return leg of the Champions League, or the away game of the Champions League qualifier. And then we will have the Falkirk game. So what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. 7 games before the end of the transfer window, not including the 2 pre-seasons. So that's another 2 games on top of that. But we'll forget about it. We'll just talk about when the season starts. We have 7 games before the transfer window. No, actually, we have 8. No, that's it. It's the third. Yeah, we'll have 8 because that one's on. That's very unfortunate. Yeah, we play Aberdeen at Celtic Park on Wednesday, September the 2nd, and the transfer window finishes on September the 3rd. Weird one. Anyway, right, that is me done and dusted for this morning. I'm going to explode with the situation with the board. They are truly afraid of buying a player for 10 million. What are the chances? Announce a player today, less than 0%. I think it's concerned and good shot. We're a £160 million club, honestly. Hopefully we'll get more in. I'm sure Martin will be focused on 6 in a row. Yes, 6 in a row, and 57 is incoming. We hope. Anyway, that is me done and dusted for this Friday morning. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. How's everyone else been dealing with this shit show? Are we going to go through a little bit of should we have a little like Celtic kind of phone in and like just comfort each other this Friday morning? Reverend I Am Jolly style. How has everyone been dealing with this shit show? I keep switching between pure rage and apathy. It's driving me crazy. I think I need a break from Celtic. That's what summer's for. Hi Baz, I'm over in the Netherlands now, just been keeping up to date with you. Well, I'm here and I'm scared to go back. Is there any good news? Yeah, it's... Don't know what it is, but there's good news. 8 games, Baz, as the window shuts on the 3rd. Yes, it's 8 games. Yes, champions again. I'm surprised the collective have not called this out, but I'm dismayed by the perceived lack of activity with all the organisations that want change at Celtic. If you want change at the football club, you rally the troops throughout the summer. You get everything into action. You get the plans laid out of the way forward. You do not wait until the end of pre-season. You do not wait until the first game of the season. You do not wait until the end of the transfer window. You do not wait until the end of October. You do not wait until it starts to go wrong again. We have taken the pressure off the club. We have allowed the club to run things on their terms once again. But anyway, did you get any money for Rocky? Well, that'll come out. I was going to say it, but I didn't. I held off because I know some of you have got like pure grey skies, and it's just anyway, right. Have an absolutely fantastic. I got through the last season on weed and gin. Just being honest. Said the psychic pixie. That's a bad way to go through a season. Have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are all around the world. I think I need to go for a lie down after this and maybe just like switch off from everything Celtic for a few hours.